الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So a brother asked, what should our attitude be towards the great Imams of the past, such as Imam al-Ghazali and others who have contributed major contributions to Islam, but yet had mistakes in their aqidah and areas? And this is a question that is very important that we have a just answer. And this answer isn't something that just comes from looking at the issue of, okay, this is right and this is wrong. And it's not an answer that comes from the fact of, oh, this Imam was so great, so he must not have been making mistakes. Both of these sides are extremes. And when it comes to the sayings of the Imams and scholars that come before, it's very important that we're just and that we don't weigh the truth by the people who are speaking, but that we weigh the people who are speaking by the truth. And this is very important. So on one side of this, when it comes to some of these major scholars who made mistakes, there is a difference between a person who majorly contributed to Islam, wrote many works in many different fields, such as usul al-fiqh, such as Imam al-Ghazali, for example. He wrote in usul al-fiqh, he wrote in mantiq, he also wrote in refuting the philosophers. He also wrote in fiqh itself, and his works in fiqh are massive contributions, as well as in tasawwuf. And in many other great areas, he wrote major works, and without a doubt, he was of the most brilliant people of his time. And the people that talk about him and they give his biography, they talk about that he is of a different type. And anyone who reads his works, they will know that he was very brilliant and that nobody could write and put things together in a way like him. And just look at the way of the Shafi'i madhab, the way he broke down the different chapters of fiqh is brilliant. The way he broke it down was something that everyone after him, they took it and ran with it. And even reading some of his own works, there's definitely a brilliance and a clarity that comes with his form of writing that you won't find with other people. And this is something that's really amazing, as well as his contributions in usul al-fiqh and the way he explains mantiq, and even like going through his book in usul al-fiqh, he starts off with mantiq, and the way he explains it is very simple and easy for someone to understand, while at the same time he's a master of this subject. So without a doubt, it's very important that we look at the scholars and we understand their status. And just because in some areas they made mistakes when it comes to ilm al-kalam, a ton of people fell into this issue, and a ton of people didn't understand the true madhab of the Salaf, or they thought it was one way and they were mistaken. But does this mean that now, from this view, that we're going to throw them to the side and say, no, your contributions are null and void, we're going to disregard everything that you had to give, and now we're just going to stick to the people of al-Sunnah, which are our select few shuyukh that we have a list of that we're allowed to take from now? And if you were to look at these select few shuyukh, you would find that where did they get their understanding? Of course, they're always going back to people that had flaws in some area or another. And this is important that we're just with the people who made major contributions to Islam. And that when we think about these scholars, the ones who made major contributions to Islam, if they made mistakes in some area or another, everybody's doing it. Like, everyone's going to make a mistake. If they're a mujtahid, then they get a reward. If they made a mistake, they get a reward. If they got it right, they get two. This is an area that not a single person is going to be free from this. So it's very important that we have a balanced approach towards this. And we know that there's no one after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that doesn't make mistakes. Everyone after him is going to make mistakes, and we take the good from them and we leave the bad. And something that Ibn Taymiyyah, he talks about, and he says that, and there's not a single person from the prominent figures accepted by the ummah of with the general acceptance, except that he has statements and actions that are taken from him and others that are left. And so there's some things يُؤْخَذْ مِنْهَا وَيُتْرَكُ عَلَيْهَا. And so there's some things we take from them, and sometimes we leave things from them. And that's what Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah he says. And he says, and this is not necessary in everything he says, as his words may be correct and they may not be. He is excused in that either as a mujtahid who is correct or a mujtahid who is mistaken. Mistaken. And in this case, this is something Ibn Taymiyyah, he brings up here. And if you look into the works of Ibn Taymiyyah, and I recommend that people look into how did he deal with these different groups that were around him and the differing beliefs around him. Did he go out and do tabdi' of individuals? Did he go out and do tabdi' of all these individuals that he was going against them? Yes, he would say that this particular thing that you're saying is bid'ah, and he would call them to the truth, and he would bring it with all of his actions. But did he treat them with bad manners? Did he say evil things about them? Yes, he might have said certain things that are proving his point, such as maybe this person when he talks about some of the scholars that fell into ilm al-kalam, he says of the reasons why so and so fell into ilm al-kalam was because he was very far away from the Sunnah, meaning like he didn't read a ton of the books of the hadith, but rather he was only focused on one particular book of ahkam, and he didn't know any other of the Sunnah other than just like this one book, which was apparent from his works. And so Ibn Taymiyyah, he talks about these things, and of course maybe one would say, okay, that this is ta'an, like that he's talking bad about this person. He's explaining the reason why this person went astray, because he was far away from the Sunnah. And Imam Shafi'i himself says, the closer someone is to the Sunnah, the stronger their hujjah is going to be. And of course, when you read the works of Ibn Taymiyyah, you'll see that he was very, very strong in the Sunnah in so many different ways, meaning like his knowledge in hadith, that he was very, very strong in this. He would bring up the Sunnah in all different types of places. And so it's important also that we look at someone who has contributed majorly in many aspects of the deen, as opposed to someone who all they ever do is talk about one aspect, and that aspect that they focused all their time and energy on, that they're mistaken in this. And so this is the difference between people such as Imam al-Ghazali. He has so many works that he's done, rahimahullah, that he has contributed to Islam. So what if you were to say, okay, he has his mistakes, and we put his mistakes next to all the other contributions that he's done to Islam? His mistakes are, it's just a small amount of mistakes that we look at in comparison to the great contribution that he's done. In this, we don't refuse his great contribution and say that, okay, because he made a mistake, we can't take any ilm from him. No, this is, we know what the mistakes are. And for a student of knowledge, yes, of course, someone who's going in there a beginner, maybe they should make sure that they're aware of certain mistakes that are here and there, and that they take from someone that they're certain they're not going to fall into mistakes of at the beginning, and then later when they're stronger, they'll be able to see these things, and they'll be mutamayyiz, or mumayyiz, that they will be able to figure out what is the good from the bad in some of these issues, or they'll know where do these issues stem from, especially in usul al-fiqh. There's certain issues that will come up here and there that are lying behind all of what everyone has to say. There's certain issues that it's very important that a student of knowledge knows about. So this is such as Imam al-Ghazali, and the same thing for Imam al-Nawawi. If they want to talk about, Imam al-Nawawi has mistakes, all right, pull out his books, his massive contributions, and find his mistakes for me. It's going to take you a long time. You're not going to find his mistakes very long. And it's very important that we realize that the Ashari or the Maturidiyya or some of the other groups that are out there, even to the Mu'tazilas, some of these people in there have contributed majorly to Islam, and we cannot deny their contribution, such as al-Zamakhshari. Everyone agrees that he was a Mu'tazili. All right, we know he's a Mu'tazili. Everyone agrees from the Ashari and the Maturidiyya and Ahl al-Hadith. We all agree that this is batil, like that madhab is batil. Yes. All right, so now if we're wanting to learn about the Quran, and we want to learn about the balagha of the Quran, are we ever going to be able to step around Zamakhshari and what he had to say about the Quran in our tafsir? No, we'll never be able to step around him. He had major things to say in tafsir that every single tafsir after him, they talk about what he had to say. They either respond to it or agree with him. And so someone who's made a major contribution in a certain field, we're not going to just drop them and act as if they didn't exist because they brought something to the table. And now that they brought something to the table, we have to see it. And something you'll find with Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah is that you'll find that when he looks at these issues that people brought up, he does not say this person was mubtada', we don't take from him. Does he do this? No, he doesn't do it in this way. What he does, he looks up their statement and he says, let's look at the statement. All right, how can this statement be understood in a way that is in line with the Quran and Sunnah? And he'll take this. And then he'll look at this and he says, there's also another understanding of this statement that doesn't go alongside of the Quran and Sunnah. And then he'll refute this understanding while affirming that other understanding that would be alongside the Quran and Sunnah. You can find this in his books of Tasawwuf, that he talks about Tasawwuf, and he'll give a reply to some of the statements that would be used in the Sufiya. When they'll talk about this statement or this statement, he'll say, if you meant this by it, then this is affirmed, and it's better to say it in the way that comes in the Quran and Sunnah, other than these other ways. But if you meant by this meaning, then this meaning is completely rejected by the Quran and Sunnah, by this, that, and the other. And he tries to look for an excuse for them. And also, and Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah is someone to take a lesson from. For all of you Salafis out there, take a lesson from how he deals with mukhalafah. Like, how does he deal with people who go against him? And see the type of respect that he has for them. And also, when he talks about Ibn Taymiyyah, he talks about Imam al-Ghazali. And he says that he was very, very, and Abu Hamid, he's talking about al-Ghazali, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, despite his great intelligence and sincere intention, he was not well versed in the way of the Salaf. In multiple places in the book, he mentions the way of the Salaf as tafweed, complete tafweed, while this is a mistake from him. So at the same time, while he's acknowledging that this person is very smart and whatnot, then he also says, yes, and this was when he thought of the Salaf, he thought it was complete tafweed. And yes, of course, the Asharis out here are going to say, see, he shows that it's tafweed, and that's the real way of the Salaf. Inshallah, in future videos and whatnot, I'll go into this issue of tafweed and why this is not the method of madhab of the Salaf, and not their methodology of complete tafweed of the meaning. And so also Imam al-Juwayni, he has lots of good things to say about him. And also, of course, like other people such as al-Dhahabi, they talk about him as well. And they say that he was an Imam Kabir, and Imam al-Kabir, and Shaykh al-Shafi'iyya, Sahib al-Tasanif, كان إماما في الأصول والفروع, رأسا في الذكاء كثير المحفوظ. And so he says these great things about him, great Imams, Shaykh of the Shafis, and the author of numerous works. He was Imam in Usul and Furu', a leader of intelligence with vast memorization. And so and if someone actually reads the works of Imam al-Juwayni, Imam al-Haramain, they will, rahimahullah ta'ala, they will see that strength in his knowledge, and that he was a brilliant person, and the contributions that he did to the ummah. If we were to take ilm al-kalam, set it to the side, is there still a major contribution that he made to the ummah? Yes, there is. And are we going to deny this from him? No, we're not. We're gonna remain there and say, yes, he has a great contribution to al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And of course, of the other areas that people will come into injustice when it comes to the lives of the scholars who came before them, that put their life put their life on the line for Islam, and that they would speak out for the truth as they saw it, and they would do everything they could to make sure that the truth was out there. Whether they made a mistake here and there, yes, everyone makes mistakes here and there, and this is something that we would hope that we don't follow them in that mistake. But at the same time, we have to give it to them that they made major contributions. And it wasn't that they were merely calling to bid'ah with everything that they had, and they weren't doing any other major works. And so this is something to keep in mind. Of course, when you have some people, when all they ever did was call to their bid'ah, and they never did anything except call to their bid'ah, and all their focus was in ilm al-kalam. And what was your contribution other than ilm al-kalam to the rest of the works of Islam? It was nothing. It was just ilm al-kalam. All right, are we going to treat this person on the same level as al-Ghazali or of Imam al-Juwayni? Imam al-Haramain, rahimahullah. And so we're not going to treat these people in the same way. Like this person, his contribution was all facet. And these other imams, they had major contributions while there was a little bit of mistakes in their works. And this shows the ikhlas that they had. And so, and lastly, before I go on, before I call this video to an end, there are people that run around on YouTube and run around on social media, and they try to talk bad about the imams that came before them. And they say they do takfir of the Asharis and whatnot. And these, they go out there and they do takfir of these Asharis, thinking that they are doing something for the Sunnah and that they're doing something for bringing the truth to light. What is this person actually doing in this matter? Like, at the end of the day, if you do takfir of the Asharis, you're basically throwing most of the contributions of the work out of the window, besides the fact that you're slandering somebody without proof. And of course, for someone to do takfir, you can't just do takfir by saying, oh, they said something that's kufr, he's a kafir. This is not how takfir works. This is something you have to look into the specific situation. You have to see if this person knew what he was saying of kufr, or if what he's saying was actually kufr in and of itself, or if it's something that leads to kufr. And there's a difference between these things. And then you also have to make sure that the proof was established upon him and that there was no shubha that would have stopped him from understanding the truth, and so on and so forth. You have to look at the individual before you make this ruling of this. And it's one thing, and this of course takes a whole nother video to talk about when it comes to naming people as a mubtadi' or as a fasik or as a kafir. All of these things, they have conditions for them. And it's not for us to look at people in the past and start naming them with these labels, especially when they made major contributions to Islam. And if they said something that was wrong, we can say this thing that they said is wrong. This is not taking away from their status as an imam. This is not taking away from it. We say this is a mistake. All right, let's keep this on the side, and this is not what we have. It's not befitting of us to throw someone and their contributions away because of a mistake that they have. Try coming up, and I say this from every single side, try coming up without the works of these people that we would view as they made mistakes here and there in Aqidah. Try coming up with Islam without them. If you say for the Mu'tazilis, everyone agrees that they're not of al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. There we go. We have this. If you were trying to get rid of the contribution of the Mu'tazilis to usul fiqh or to balagha, try it. You'll see that we're dependent on them. We're dependent on their ilm. And yes, while we refute them in their aqidah and we warn people against falling into their mistakes in their aqidah, at the same time, we still take from them and we still use what they had to contribute and we reply against whatever was wrong from that. And this is the insaf, or this is the justice that we need to have when it comes to other great imams that came before us. Yes, they're a great imam. Or can we say that they're an imam? Yes, go ahead, say they're imam. And so, can you say that they're Shaykh al-Islam? Yes, go ahead, say they're Shaykh al-Islam. And it's completely unfair to these people to then start slandering them after their birth, when all this person that's slandering has ever done is open up his mouth about people. And all he ever has done is he's looked at a couple things in Tawheed, and he thinks that he now, since he learned a couple things about Tawheed, he can then look at the rest of the world as if they are ignorant or kuffar. And Wallahu musta'an. And this is the problem that people have fallen into and going to an extreme with this. And it's important we take the good from the people that they have done and take this in light. Look at the good that they have contributed. Look at the mistakes that they have made. You'll see that these amount of mistakes are so small in comparison to the good that they have contributed. And for this, we ask Allah for Him to forgive them for their mistakes and to lead us to the truth and what has in this matter when there is differences of opinion. And inshallah, I'll talk about in another video how can we know the truth, and how can we, when we see the vast differences that appear within the ummah, how can we know that we're upon the truth? and that we're not of the people who are misguided. When there's so many differences of opinion, what should we do to make sure that we find the truth in that? If you found this video helpful or important, or if you have something good to say, please say something in the comments about that. And also, if you want to see more of this content, please like, share, and subscribe to the video. And also, if you want to support, then feel free to support on Patreon or GoFundMe. That will also be linked below. And I hope that this video is something that will help ease the tensions that people have between some of the people. And as Allah says, those people that say, رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا وَهَبْ لَنَا مِن لَدُنْكَ رَحْمَةً إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْوَهَّابُ.